Hey everyone, I figured I'd do a quick video on what is the infinite money glitch that Michael Saylor discovered. First of all, there's no way you or I can take advantage of this infinite money glitch, so, tough luck. It's super cool that Michael Saylor found it, but it doesn't apply to you and I, but it's so. If your goal here is to only help yourself personally, then this video is not relevant to you. So, the gist is, Michael Saylor is the founder and CEO of MicroStrategy, a software company that's been around for 30 years. Well, it was the first major corporation, or not even a major corporation, the company comparatively is tiny. It was the first publicly traded corporation to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet as their primary reserve asset. And Michael Saylor is one of the biggest brains in Bitcoin. I mean, the guy's a genius, libertarian. He's read basically everything that's almost ever been written about, history and everything else. Anyway, so he figured out that he had $500 million on their balance sheet, and he ultimately used it to buy Bitcoin. But now they have 15 billion rather than just 500 million of Bitcoin on their balance sheet, which is more than 1% of all the Bitcoin that will ever exist in the world is on the balance sheet of MicroStrategy. So they own 214,000 Bitcoin. And since there's only 21 million total, they own more than 1% of all the Bitcoin that will ever exist. Well, how do they do that? Well, again, this is not something that you or I can do, but Michael Saylor figured out that because he was running a publicly traded software company, that he could issue convertible debt and then use the proceeds of the debt offering to buy Bitcoin. And then the company's value would increase as the result of having more Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And then he could use the issuance of new company stock to pay off the debt. And he could do this over and over and over. So this weekend, literally like in the last 48 hours, MicroStrategy announced that they were retiring $650 million of debt by issuing new stock, using the proceeds, and then simultaneously they were, and of course, when they retire that debt by issuing new stock, that does not cost them any cash or Bitcoin. That's just the issuance of new stock. And simultaneously that they are buying $700 million of additional Bitcoin. So more than like 10,000 additional Bitcoin on top of the 214,000 that they already own. So they're doing this by issuing another convertible note. A convertible note is a debt offering that can be repaid with company stock. So these, I think because they're a publicly traded company, they can borrow money in the past at less than 1%. The most recent offering, I think, was at 2.25%. So they're borrowing $700 million at a 2.25% interest rate with the ability to pay back that debt at a premium to the stock price of the company. So they will then use that to buy $700 million of Bitcoin. They will wait for the price of Bitcoin over the next 18 months to double. And the company's, of course, value will double as their Bitcoin holdings double. And then I think they can redeem all of that debt for a 30% premium on today's stock price. So basically, they wait for their stock to double, and then they redeem the debt by issuing shares and paying back the shares at essentially a 30% premium. Anyway, I won't go into the basic mechanics of it other than it's as simple as issuing convertible debt, using cash to buy Bitcoin, and then paying back the debt with company shares. I think that's the gist of essentially how it's working. Well, as a result, the company went from being worth $1 billion, where the software company was worth $500 million, and the $500 million in cash on the balance sheet was worth $500 million, for a total of $1 billion. To now, I think the market cap is either $25 or $30 billion, and they have about $15 billion of Bitcoin on the balance sheet, and they're buying more. So if 1% of all the Bitcoin that will ever exist in the world was not enough, they are buying another, 10% more, or 5% more, or whatever, $700 million gets them. I guess that's like 5% or something like that, more Bitcoin. So anyway, it's the closest thing to an infinite money glitch that I'm aware of that anyone's ever found in the stock market, because it effectively lets you borrow US dollars, buy Bitcoin, and then pay back the US dollars with stock that you have the ability to issue yourself. Now, MicroStrategy is essentially doing something not completely unlike what a nation state could do as long as they have their own currency. So, for example, let's say Switzerland wakes up tomorrow and they realize, hey, we can print the Swiss franc out of thin air. We can use that to buy Bitcoin. And we're basically printing something infinite and buying something scarce. And so, of course, when they do that, especially depending on how much they can accumulate, as soon as everybody finds out that a nation state is buying Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin goes up radically, which means not only can they print something out of thin air and buy Bitcoin with it, something scarce, but then the value of that Bitcoin keeps going up the more they buy of it, and the more that other nation states chase Switzerland doing the same thing, for example. So it's a really, in the case of MicroStrategy, it is a brilliant strategy, because just about any software company could do the same thing. Issue convertible debt, use the proceeds to buy Bitcoin, stick the Bitcoin on the balance sheet, and then pay back the convertible debt with company stock at a premium based on the issuance. So I think a whole lot of companies are going to start doing exactly what MicroStrategy is doing. I think it's Similar Scientific just started doing it. It's another publicly traded company. It's a medical device or medical company, and it's controlled by the chairman, who is somebody similar. The guy is, he's the founder of it, or, related to the founder of it, something like that. And then there's a company in Japan, and I believe a company in Canada. So to my knowledge, there's one company in the U.S., MicroStrategy. There's a company called DeFi that I believe is in Canada. And there's a company in Japan called Geo something. I can't remember. Those are the only three companies that I'm aware of that have figured out that they are going to exploit the infinite money glitch. And for nation states, nobody's done it yet. El Salvador has adopted Bitcoin as legal tender, but they are a U.S. dollarized economy. So they do not have the ability to print their own money out of thin air the way the U.S. or the 160 countries that have their own currency can do. So anyway, that's just 2 cents on what a infinite money glitch looks like for a publicly traded company, and what an infinite money glitch looks like for a nation state if they ever decide to exploit it. And I think it's only a matter of time until both of them get exploited, until the point at which the world is running on a Bitcoin standard, at which point the infinite money glitch goes away. So anyway, that's your curiosity. And just FYI, if it hasn't already started, Michael Saylor will be buying $700 million of Bitcoin over the weekend if he has not bought it already. So have a great night.